these songs came to me like in my head. Like I didn't sit down at a guitar or piano or write lyrics. They all just kind of, they were there one day. And this one kind of just, and that was it. And then I brought down this like scrappy demo that was like really, really rough. And then everybody was just like, wait a minute, like, yeah, here we go. All right, move this around. All right, we're done. There you go. That's it. And it came out really easy. And I thought it was so confusing. When I first brought it down, I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. We're going to have to rearrange this whole thing and put it into parts. And it turns out that was actually how it ended up being, the original, like, kind of just scrappy way. And it turned out to be something that I didn't even recognize as being complete. And it was. And but all I knew is that I knew it was different and it was what I was looking for. We really, on the last record, were trying to be the flag runners, like the, hey, there's this music that you maybe don't know about, and you know, it inspired everything. You know, James Brown inspired punk rock and that kind of thing, and we felt like we were kind of like the ones going out there to really wave this flag, you know, and be like, check this stuff out, and this is a tradition, a big tradition that we're part of, you know. Like, we never went out there and we're like, check out all the stuff we invented. We were just like, this is what we love, here, put it out there. And then now it was like, oh boy, that one. There's no, like, the big thing for me was to get away from the traditional sense of songwriting, the folk chords, like big open strummed chords, you know, like those things. There's none of that. So it's all like parts, like Keith Richards or yeah, kind of riffs rather than just, you know. And that kind of happened by just a desire to be a better player. As I often do, I looked at the Clash and I kind of said, you know, what's my favorite Clash record? And I was just like, it's London Calling. And I listened just as a theory with myself. I remember sitting down with the first 3 records and I said, all right, let me just see what they did. The first one is just, it's total just wow, 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 wow. And then the second one, and I didn't realize this at the time that we were writing our records, but after the fact, writing these songs, I was kind of like, that's kind of like Sink or Swim. And the second one, you know, where it's like, starts out with Safe European Home, and then kind of goes down into all these other branches, it's like, well, that's kind of different, like 59 sound. And then I listened and I was like, you know what, we are on the right track because that London Calling is slower and more confident.
Right.
And I didn't realize it until I had something to compare it to. So it kind of, normally I would listen to a record and get inspiration and start writing something. Whereas London Calling was my assurance that what I had done wasn't wrong.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, somebody else did it too, you know, and like some 4 kids from England figured it out, why not 4 kids from New Jersey? We were at the point where we could have an entire career of 59 sounds and just we wrote that record, we know how to write that again, but you're not really worth anything if you just regurgitate things. And I think that there is a nervousness and there is an excitement too to see, like, are people gonna abandon us completely or not? But I know, at least when I go home with this record, I made it so I can listen to it. Because it was the record that was missing in my collection. You know, I read that, somebody else said that one time, and I'm using their quote. I don't remember who said that, but I'm taking it. Was it you? You did say that. And that's kind of what we did, and we asked for it. It was like, you know, we wanted the attention. We were, hey, you know, we're here. Let's check this thing out. And we got it. And then now we realize that, wait, we got to prove that we belong here.
You got to live up to it.
You've got it. And you've got to give them something that's worth buying, that's worth listening to, and worth spending your time on. It's not about whether, you know, you're making songs for people to just think, oh, that's really catchy, you know, I like that, I want to put that on my iPhone. If someone is going to actually purchase a record, there's a lot of garbage you can buy, you know? I mean, I buy a lot of records on iTunes from their weekly recommendations, and there are a lot of bad ones. It is hard for me to find records.
Yeah.
But when I find one, I just dive into it, because I'm like, it's so great to find a record that cuts through. And, you know, I don't know if this is a great record or a good record or the best record or whatever, but I feel it's worth listening to. That's what I feel for other people. Me, I love it, but at least I can say to someone, it's worth it. It's worth listening to. We've put a lot of thought into it. Give it a shot.